What do I think is going to be the bottom line impact on all of these proposed changes to the higher education loans and financial aid landscape? Well, this is just my opinion. The last couple weeks I've done videos on some of the proposed changes that are coming down the pike involving how aid's calculated, student loans, taxes, and things like that. And I think the bottom line of what they're trying to do, I think the intended goal is to help lower the cost of college, which is a good thing. But here's the truth. I don't actually think it's going to accomplish that. There's a couple of reasons. So first things first, if you think about some of the proposals like sunsetting or getting rid of the Grad Plus and Parent Plus programs, changing the aid formula, things like that, those are really what I would consider demand side adjustments. So after all, right, the price of anything, basic supply and demand, the way you lower prices, you either A, increase supply, or B, you lower demand, or C, like a combination of both. And so to increase supply, you're probably not going to get colleges to add to their class size because that would involve building, new classrooms and stuff, and that's not always feasible. So the other way to do is you lower demand. And I think that the reality of this is with limiting some of the loans and the aid and changes to the aid formula is going to help limit demand. Now, in theory, what that means is it should lower prices in a broad sense, but I don't really think that's the case. And I don't think that's the case particularly at the most expensive schools. So after all, if you think about like a luxury car, like a Ferrari, exotic sports car or something, right? If we made it harder for people to buy a Ferrari, maybe fewer people will want to buy a Ferrari, but there's still going to be a lot of people who want to buy Ferrari. So Ferrari, and by the way, I'm only using Ferrari because I don't really know of anything about Lamborghini, or pick whatever other exotic supercar you want. I don't necessarily think that reducing the number of people on the wait list is necessarily going to reduce the price, because a car manufacturer like Ferrari really doesn't need to reduce the price to still have a lot of people wanting to buy it. Similarly, at the most expensive colleges, your Ivies, your near Ivies, your public Ivies, the basic rules of supply and demand really don't work. They really operate more like luxury goods, like a Ferrari, or like the super expensive handbags or things like that. They're largely price insensitive. Like, you could lower the price. It's not like a bunch more people are going to apply. You could raise the price. It's not going to cause a lot of people not to apply, because after all, getting into Ivy League school is something that a lot of families still want. The net impact of these proposals, by making it harder for families, well, I think it's going to make it harder for families to get aid as well as to use loans to pay for college. I think that's going to force families to have to plan a lot earlier, right? It's going to really require them to plan a lot earlier, but I don't necessarily think it's going to do anything regarding college prices at the highest and most exclusive levels. That might hurt schools kind of in the middle, right, where you sort of like an expensive private school that's not an Ivy League or near Ivy League, so it doesn't really have that reputation. I can see prices for those schools going down, and possibly even those schools going out of business or merging together, and that would reduce the supply, which would actually counteract the whole lowering the price argument. But bottom line is, I think it's going to force people who want to go to college to have to plan a lot earlier, but I don't necessarily think it's going to do a lot to the price. Now, planning earlier for anything can always be a good thing, but also let's face facts. I can remember my own case when my kids were born. Yes, should I have saved for their college the day that they were born? Yes. But honestly, that was the last thing I was thinking about, right? I was up to my eyeballs in like diapers and wipes and formula and trying to get enough sleep and trying to adjust to fatherhood, that literally the last thing I was thinking about was socking away money for college, even though, yes, that's what I quote unquote should have done. And so a lot of families today, the average American family, they're trying to live their daily life and save for retirement and maybe pay off some credit card debt and everything else. There just isn't a lot of room in the budget to save for college, never mind having to think about it a lot earlier. So when you bottom line it again, and I know I've said the term bottom line a lot, but if you take these things, which I think is going to happen, again, this is only my opinion. I think that at least at the highest levels of colleges, right, the Ivies, the New York Ivies, and the public Ivies, I think what's going to happen is it's going to revert to what college was like many decades ago, which was kids from really wealthy families can go and very few other people can go. After all, if your family's already wealthy, or if you have the discipline to save and save a lot and save early, not being able to get a loan or not being able to get as much aid is really not going to affect you because you probably weren't counting on those things anyway. But the families who need to borrow or need to get a lot of aid or simply don't have the room in their budget to save a lot, those are the families that are going to get hurt the most, not the wealthy. So that's why I think that ultimately it's going to go back to how it was many decades ago, which is really, really rich kids get to go to college and not rich kids don't. Now, maybe I'm being overly pessimistic. You can tell me that in the comments. You can let me know what your thoughts are around the net, sort of the bottom line impact of all these proposed changes if they become law, right? Now, again, nobody says that they're going to become law. These are only proposals. But what I just described is how I can see this thing going. Anyway, as always, please put any comments, questions. Let me know your thoughts about this, right? But any other questions regarding like college financial aid, student loans, put them in the comments. I may select your question for a future video. As always, folks, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.